Reichert for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, the Supreme Court has already decided this issue, and some of our friends may disagree with the Supreme Court's decision, just like some of us on this side of the aisle might disagree with the Supreme Court's decision on forcing Americans to buy health insurance. But it's the law of the land. So let's kind of step back and see where we are. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, we had a hearing where Mr. George and Mr. Miller appeared. Mr. Miller accepted the IG's report. He said he accepted it fully. But on the other hand, he said, I don't agree with the use of the word targeted in the report, even though it was used 16 times. Mr. Miller would not even agree that certain organizations and or individuals were treated differently in this process. He did, however, say, as the chairman said, we provided poor customer service. Poor customer service. So I didn't have a lot of time to ask Mr. Miller additional questions, but I'm trying to figure this out. Was Mr. Miller asked to resign by the President of the United States because he provided poor customer service? Well, if Mr. Miller provided poor customer service and was asked to resign by the President, who else provided poor customer service that should be asked to resign? Under Mr. Miller, under Ms. Lerner, under the other names that were brought up would be my question. Rather, we know that it was more than poor customer service, because Mr. Miller goes on to say, well, while it was just poor customer service, I want to apologize. And then he came up with excuses. And then he said that, you know, there was really no intent here to treat anybody differently or wrongly. There was no, this was an effort by good employees to be efficient. To be efficient by asking you hundreds of questions about your personal lives? That's efficiency? I don't think so. And the word inadvertent was used as we talked about Dr. Eastman's release of information, tax information. It's not an inadvertent. And there is more investigation to do. I have said many times in this forum, most people know that I'm a retired police officer, 33 years as a cop. There's a lot of questions to ask here. When I asked Mr. Miller who he spoke to about this to try to find out who came up with the criteria that all of you had to respond to, he didn't remember at first, but finally gave me the title of a person that he spoke to, and then I finally said, what's the name of the person? He said it was Nancy Marks. Did any of you speak with Nancy Marks or receive any communication at all from Nancy Marks? Mr. Chairman, I would suggest, along with Mr. Nunes, that we think about having Nancy Marks appear in front of this panel to find out what she knew, because Mr. Miller couldn't remember at all what that conversation was about. There are other names that have been brought up here today, and I would just ask if there are any other names from any of the panelists that are appearing before this committee today. Do you have any other names of people that you've contacted, that you've spoken with, that you've received emails? Could you provide those? And I'll just start with, say your name one more time for me.
Mr. Kukaji.
Kukaji, could you please provide me with any names that you could think of that you've had communication with?
Yes, the first agent on my case was Sheila Mae Robinson. Then my case was switched to the desk of Mr. Ron Bell, and he was the one who advised me that he was waiting on guidance from his superiors as to my organization and other similar organizations. Then it was passed to Mr. Mitch Steele, and then the most recent letter, which came as recently as May 6th, was from a woman whose name I can't pronounce.
Well, we can get it from you later.
Thank you.
Ms. Belson.
Just Joseph Hare was the only one, H-E-R-R.
Dr. Eastman.
Yeah, we had a couple of investigators from the Inspector General's office that we've been dealing with, and I will provide those names to the committee.
Ms. Kinney.
Mitch Steele.
And other names possibly?
Holly Paz comes to mind.
Okay. Ms. Martinez.
I will provide that.
Robert Cho. I have an ID number for one of the workers. I don't have his name.
Please.
Ronald Bell, Stephen Seok, Lois Lerner, and Holly Paz. And in the last page of my testimony is my timeline, and all these names are in there as well as that ID number.
Right. Thank you. You back.